Welcome to the ExEm Podcast. Here is your host, mental health therapist, Matthew Knabe.
I am very hard on myself, dealt with severe anxiety.
And it made me feel like a monster. I didn't have the energy to care.
There was just nothing more but to face what I had been running from.
I'm already an anxiety-filled mess.
It's just love. Like, it just goes back to love.
Well, welcome back to the ExEm Podcast. So thankful that you guys keep coming back and listening to what we do. So today, I've been wanting to do this for a while and just haven't. And thought about in between some of our episodes doing something like a quick hit, maybe just a quick topic to discuss that maybe stuff that comes up with clients in session that I feel like I talk about a lot. And so today I want to talk about, I'm going to start out with a quick story that happened to me in my early 20s. And many of you know that before my mental health career, I was a musician and did a lot of touring, made some records, and played with several different bands. But in my early 20s, I had an opportunity to meet with a guy who had been very successful in doing like tour design. And so anytime you go to see a big concert and there's pyrotechnics, there's lasers, there's video, all that stuff is kind of what he did for a living. And he'd worked with some of the biggest bands in the world. So I was real excited to go meet with him. And never forget, first time he and I met, I sat down and we were talking about our next tour and some things that we wanted to do. And he stopped me kind of mid-sentence and said, have you not written any of this down? And I said, no. He goes, so this is all just swimming in your head right now. And I said, yeah. He goes, okay, get out of my office. You can come back when you have it all written down. And my heart sank. And I was like, what the heck? And he taught me a huge lesson. And it was, a lot of times we have this stuff swimming in our heads, but it doesn't really become a formulated concrete idea until we get it onto paper. And there's reasons for that. And so this is something I share with a lot of my clients, that journaling is actually very therapeutic, but it also helps us work through a lot of these things that are swimming around in our minds. One of the great advantages that I find is sometimes we forget where we've come from when working on an issue or with life. And journaling is a great record of us being able to go back and look a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and remember where we were at with a situation, an adversity, a relationship. And it's so good for us to be able to see the distance that we've been able to come. I've done this with a lot of clients where I call it like the grandparent view. When you're a parent, you don't really see your kids growing at the rate that they are, but maybe a grandparent who doesn't see them every day is like, oh my gosh, they're growing all the time. As a therapist, I have that with my clients because they come into the office and they're feeling like, man, I really don't feel like I'm progressing. And I'm sitting there going, remember a year ago, we were at this juncture, we were dealing with this stuff, and this stuff has just happened in your life and you were able to handle it this way. And they're like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. Journaling helps, I think, people get to that point. The other thing is there is a physical response when you take what's going on in your mind and you send that through the prefrontal cortex, and that sends a signal down to your fingers, and either you type or you write on a piece of paper. There's something that helps you process what's going on in the mind. And so a lot of times you're not really working through unhealthy thoughts or maybe some stressors in life. And it's amazing to me when you put it through the filtration system of the brain, say it's an emotional experience that you're going through, and you go through the process of physically sending that signal down your body, through your arm, out through your fingers, onto a piece of paper, how therapeutic that can be. And so those are just a couple reasons why I think journaling is really important. So every once in a while I may throw these things out there and do a 5-minute podcast just to touch on something that I think is really beneficial. So if you haven't done it before, it's really easy. I set aside some time in the morning or in the evening and just kind of let it flow. Sometimes it's about specific things with my family or myself. Sometimes it's work related, or it's goal oriented, or things that I'm processing of the past, but there doesn't have to be rules to it. And so hopefully that's helpful to you today. Thank you again so much for listening to the ExEm Podcast. Until next time, or when our Savior comes, God bless.